These are assembly instructions for my Valentine's Day shopping cart. So this is the main piece of my cart, and I'm folding down on all the score lines, and I'm just using my extra large scraper to help me fold on those score lines. I'm just placing my scraper right on the score line and then folding downwards. And I'm doing that for all the score lines on my cart. And then I have the two other pieces that go underneath my cart, and I'm folding down on the score lines for both pieces as well. So now that I've folded down on all my score lines, I'm going to decorate some of my pieces. So I have the decorative layers, and I'm putting them on the outside of my shopping cart. So I'm flipping my piece over and I'm matching up my decorative panels. These pieces are not symmetrical, so they only go in one direction. So just make sure that you've got them matched up properly so that they're just a tiny inset. So I'm just covering the underside of my decorative panels in glue and then just gluing them down to my shopping cart. There should be a tiny little border on all four sides. And I'm doing that with all four. So now that I've decorated the outside, I'm flipping my piece over, and I have a decorative piece for the bottom of my cart. So I'm just putting glue on the underside of it and just gluing that down. Next I have this piece that is like a squared off U, and it has two score lines. Just folding down on those score lines. So this piece is meant to reinforce my handle piece. So I'm putting glue on the underside of it, and I'm matching up the top of the handle and then just gluing it on either side of the score lines that are on my cart, like so. So my handle folds away from my cart like so. I have my handle on my left hand side, and then I'm taking my piece that has the attachments for the wheels and some support on the left hand side. I'm flipping my cart over, and I'm going to be gluing this down to the bottom of my cart. So I'm just putting glue all over that central grid. So I have those three pieces with the tabs on them on my left hand side, and I'm going to flip my piece over and glue it directly onto the bottom of my cart. So the layers of holes should be exactly on top of one another. And so for these three pieces, I have a piece with a tab at the end and a tab at the side. I've put glue all over the tab that's at the side, and I'm gluing it right to that wheel piece on the underside of my cart. I want the cut edge of this piece to be right along the score line of my tab. So I've done that with the piece that's closest to me. I'm going to do that with the one that's on the other side as well. I'm just putting glue all over that tab. I'm tucking it under my side panel, and then I'm just gluing it in. And then I have these two panels, and these are structural. So what they do is they reinforce these little pieces. So my entire project is cut out of 80-pound cardstock. So I'm putting glue on the underside of one of my two pieces, and I'm gluing it to the underside of that piece. And for this one, I want to make sure that those cutouts are exactly on top of one another. So there's the two holes and then those two rectangular cutouts. And I need them stacked up exactly on top of one another. By layering up my pieces of 80-pound cardstock, I'm adding a little bit of sturdiness to my project. So one of them got glued to the one that's closest to me. Now I'm gluing this one to the one that's across from it. And again, I want those cutouts stacked up exactly on top of one another. So next I have the piece that's going to be the shelf underneath my shopping cart. I have my sides folded upwards, and I have my decorative panel. There are slender cutouts on either side. I want to make sure that they're stacked exactly on top of the cutouts that are on my base piece. I have my shopping cart again, and my handle is towards the left. So I'm flipping my piece over. I'm putting glue all over one side of this piece. I'm gluing it to the bottom of my cart. I'm just making sure, again, that those cutouts are exactly on top of one another. So I have 3 layers of those cutouts that have to be stacked up on top of one another. Then I'm going to rotate my piece, and I'm putting glue on the side that's across from the one that I've just glued in. And I'm gluing it on the inside of the underside of my cart, making sure that those cutouts are lined up properly. So these pieces are now 3 layers thick, and I have these 2 tabs on either side and that 1 tab in the middle. So these pieces are basically all structural. There's a small rectangle in my file. I'm putting glue on the underside of it. I'm going to take that center tab, the one that's still flapping, and I'm gluing that little rectangle from the score line right down to the end, making sure that the edges on the right and the left are nice and even. And then I'm putting glue on the underside of my tab and I'm gluing that tab to the underside of my cart. And then I'm putting glue on the two other tabs, gluing down both tabs right to the corners. I'm going to flip my cart over, and I'm putting glue on the side tabs and then just raising up the sides of my cart. I want the cut edge to go right along the score line of those tabs. So then I'm rotating my piece to the other side, putting glue all over the tab that's right underneath my handle, lifting the side of my cart up and gluing it in. All right, so now I have the front, and I'm putting glue on both tabs on the front of my cart and carefully tucking them inside my cart. I'm gluing the cut edge of my side piece to the tab that's on the front of my cart. And I'm doing that on both sides. So now I'm down to the wheels. I have 12 pieces for my wheels. So each wheel is 3 layers. I'm gluing 3 of these rounds on top of one another to create a nice strong wheel. And I'm going to do that for all 4 wheels. So next I have 4 of these rounded pieces. They have 2 score lines in the center. I'm inserting one end of my rounded piece into the cutout that's at the bottom of my cart. And then I am inserting it into the cutout that's at the side. And then I'm pulling it through like so. I'm going to take one of my wheel pieces, and I have some brads. I think I'm going to go with the smaller gold brads. So I'm using these very small brads. I have 3 layers of cardstock here, and I am layering up the holes on top of one another. Then I'm taking my wheel and placing the center cutout over the 2 others. And then I'm placing my brad right in the center hole, putting it through all layers, and then opening it on the underside, like so. And I'm doing that for all 4 wheels. Then I have these 2 long rectangular shapes in the file, and I've used them to decorate my handle piece on the top and on the bottom. And then I added my sentiment. So my sentiment is a piece of 80-pound white cardstock, and then I cut a heart out of foil craft board, and then I've applied the sentiment. I've cut it out of a white vinyl. And so that's my Valentine's Day shopping cart.